So, in this short video of my babbling Zoom thing where I use my camera instead of Zoom, I wanted to do a quick summary of kind of just looter shooters in general. The looter shooter genre is kind of a big thing for the last, 2 decades now, where it's really the concept of you're basically playing a game repetitively just to get the best items. In this gaming structure, this system, you're usually beholden to the trifecta that is the looter shooter. Borderlands really did this one thing where they really boasted how many guns and how many versions of guns you could get throughout the game. And essentially, I think that's kind of the catalyst to modern looter shooters that we have now. Yes, there were other things before that, but in the age that we are dealing with looter shooters now, I feel like that's kind of the core catalyst that really cemented what we're seeing. So what is that? The trifecta of the looter shooter is essentially the gun, right? Various guns you'll find in the game. The characters that you will be using as you're running around through the game with their own perks, their own abilities, and the perk system itself. A series of modifiers that will help boost your gun play or your character design, right? Multiple games. If you look at the ecosystem right now, that is the looter shooter, kind of focus on one of the two trifectas. Note, I forgot to mention the dice. The dice is actually the key component to all looter shooters. The randomness that comes with the game. You're not going to find any of these three. You're going to have to play and, with hope, get the specific loadout for the gun, the specific character you're looking for, and the specific perks. So, what do I mean? Let's look at it from not a developer point of view, but certain games that we know. I haven't really played that many games when it comes to looter shooters. I'm very, very particular about my games, but I've tried some. The major name that we know of is Bungie. Bungie's major thing is you're going to go into the game with your specialized character, limited in choice, but the goal of the entire game is to find that one particular gun with the perks on it. Now, you can actually add some extra perks on your characters that will help out, but the real goal is to get that gun with those perks. This is what you're running for. You're running around for the perfect drop with a perfect set of perks on it, right? That's where the game is. You'll have multiple replicas of this particular gun, but with various perks placed on top of it. That's the overall loop of a looter shooter that's focused on guns. Another game I've played that has this system is The Division, where again, you're running around picking up the same gun over and over and over again until you find that perfect roll. When we talk about gacha games, which I've played maybe like one or two of them, gacha games, their specific thing is that they focus mostly on the character, right? You're running around for that perfect drop, that perfect loot box that unlocks the character you've been looking for this whole time. And there are certain times when in gacha games that to progress past a specific spot, you have to have that perfect character with the perfect skills. Not perks, skills, right? These characters have their own abilities and their own mechanics. And the goal is to try and find that one particular character. Throughout these games, you have the ability to somewhat alter these characters with perks. But in the end, the overall problem with this system is that you usually come up with tons of duplicates. A lot of dupes. You will usually stumble on, and games when it's focused heavily on guns, you'll find the same gun 30, 50, 100 times. And you're destroying them all because it's not the right perk that you're looking for. Gacha games have got this one thing interestingly set up. Some of the games you're designed to collect this character over and over and over again, and then fuse them into the character to make them stronger. Great, but you're still beholden to this subtle moment of RNG. So, here's the reason why I'm doing this whole video. Let's talk about Warframe for a second. Why Warframe? Recently, a bunch of people have been jumping on the Warframe wagon. You're seeing a lot of Destiny 2 players disillusioned by what's been happening in the space right now with no inherent view or vision of the future. So they're kind of just jumping ship at this point and jumping on the Warframe, something for the last probably 5 years they've been told over and over and over again to just try. All right, so let me explain Warframe for a second. As a Warframe player, I've been noticing one thing that soars above the others. And in a way, I think after watching so many videos of people just talk about this, I think they've never actually talked about the specific thing that Warframe does differently. They focus on the perks, or in their case, the mods. So how does that change everything? In Warframe, the gun is not duplicates. There's never a duplicate of the gun. There's just blueprints. You create your one gun with set amount of stats, and that's that. Same with your character. Your character is created. You hunt down for the blueprint for your character, build your character in the easiest way possible, and then you have your base stats for your character. As you go through the game, you will actually not only earn the resources to build this gun and to build your character or your Warframe, you also get mod cards. This is actually dropping along with every other resource needed in this game. Again, all beholden to RNG. How does this change it? Well, yeah. So it's dropping cards. Well, yes, now you have the ability to create all the perks you need for your gun. You take a set amount of perks, boosting it up, create your gun of your choosing. Specific sets of fire rates, speed, everything else is already baked into the gun. But you can alter that with your cards. Same with your character. Your character is beholden to the original stats, but you have the ability to alter these perks by adding the slots. With every new update, you are given usually a few guns, not that many, usually about 1 to 3, and 1 character. Okay, that's so little. Why would people play? Because they also drop a few new cards that change the game. And these few new cards, now that you have this setup, you think, ooh, I feel like this new card alters the game for me. I'm going to switch that out and play around and see what happens. And you're like, ooh, wait, did that work? Let me go back into my deck of cards and rechange something real quick. Ooh, that feels better with this new card that we got. And that's the real gem that is Warframe. Warframe isn't the standard looter shooter where you're running around looking for hot waifus or really awesome guns with the perfect perk. Warframe is a card game baked into a shooter. As you run around the game, you're collecting cards, sets, all these things to slowly unlock just individual cards that preferably might spark that interest on changing up your deck. Yes, everything is the deck system. From your guns, your characters, your ships, your mechs, all these little things. Yes, am I spoiling things? Hopefully not too much. But this is where the key is. This is where the magic actually happens. Because with every single new set of cards that come out, just like any card game like Magic, you're now beholden to go back into your old deck, into your old Warframe builds, and into your old gun builds. And now you're changing the deck up. The old gun is now new because you added the new thing into this. The reason why Warframe won't die is because this system makes you revisit everything else. And that's why Warframe's awesome. Hey, try it out. All right. So what about other games that try to do something like this? Well, let's talk about that. So when it comes to talking about games that have tried this deck system before, the best I can do is explain The First Descendants, which is the one game that everyone keeps saying is like Warframe, but not. And surprisingly, I kind of want to talk about Destiny for a second. Because surprisingly, Destiny 2 at one point did have something very, very close to this system. All right, so let's talk about The First Descendant. The First Descendant is basically a gacha game, right? And you're thinking, what? What do you mean? I thought it was like Warframe. Well, technically, it's more like a gacha game with Warframe baked into it. You're given hot waifus, the ability to run around and get the blueprints for these waifus. But the level of which you need to play the game and the RNG needed just to get the blueprints and the parts for this waifu is ridiculous. Just like every good gacha game. You're going to be hunting down this character 3 to 5 times longer than you would at Warframe. We're talking days. On top of that, they did add the card system. That's great, but it's harder to find the cards. And on top of that, they still put in this gun system in there. So you have everything working in tandem with each other, which makes it more convoluted. What's happening is, as you play the game, you're struggling to get a new character, forced to play with the one character or 2 or 3 characters you've slowly unlocked throughout the story, while going through so many copies of your guns and just throwing them away. You have no idea if any of these perks are good yet. And then randomly, you'll get some cards. And is this a card system easy? Not really. You're lucky enough to put in some cards that might boost your character up. The grind of all 3 working against each other is why the Descendant is really slow and kind of boring. You're hunting 3 things at once, which makes the grind 3 times harder to focus on. And which is why probably people are getting burned out by it. Destiny 2, at one point, actually introduced a nice little fun card system, a perk system. I don't know if anyone remembers this. Prior to the new version of the armor system, Destiny actually tried this really interesting thing where a lot of the perks that were put on the armor, in other words, your character, were so random. And it was really fun. Trying to go through the whole list of all these things. And how did you collect these perks? Well, you ran around and gamed. These would drop randomly. These would randomly drop as you fought the mobs. And then you'll slowly find something. I used to have something that was really cool with SMGs. And you slot these in to your armor to boost up the stats whoops, to boost up the stats of your guns. I love that system. It was the closest it got to Warframe. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of fun. I enjoyed it. But then they wanted to simplify it for new players. New players, in other words, the guys who play it, the demo, like me, lost all this. They scrapped all this complicated parts of the system where I could say, ooh, that was fun. And they simplified it. Like, really simplified to the point where it dumbed down the whole thing. So now it's kind of base perks. Nothing really exciting. At this point now, you're pretty much stuck with just, it's easier to go online and just see someone's perk combination, because the majority of the perks are just orbs on grenades, orbs on kills, bonus fire rate, or bonus fire damage on this while this perks. Armor, what was it? There's this armor thing where, like, you shoot a bunch of things, your armor points get up, and, you know, people who know the game know the game. So they took away the little quirks that used to be part of their perk system, simplified it to basically the most basic of basics. And now this armor system that they have now is boring, not fun. You're never going to change your character with every new iteration. They're actually never going to add new perks. Their new perks now is tied into, what is it? Their season pass, their seasons, where you get perks for that one season, and then those vanish. And those are pretty activated, so whatever. But again, I'm rambling now, babbling, as you can see. So essentially, what is Warframe? Warframe is a card collector game baked into a looter shooter, where this is the core mechanic. And this is why Warframe will never die.